Okay, now we're back for homework 2. If we look, I just want to start with, this is our nice plot from last time, looking at how temperature and precip varied over time for your month at your airport. Now what we're going to do is, we're going to see if there's a correlation between maximum and minimum temperature at your location. So the first thing we're going to do is, we're going to name this sheet. So I'm going to call this Excel Homework 1, right? And if you like, you can right-click on this and give this a nice little color. Give it like a nice light green. And then what you can do is, if you right-click, you can move or copy, create a copy, and right, and see it moves it. So we're going to do here, I'm going to call this Excel Homework 2. So if you're handing it in, you're always going to just keep handing in the same file. So since now we're in Homework 2, we can delete this graph. And we want to look at max versus minimum temperature, right? And this, I'm going to do something tricky on you. I want the minimum on the x-axis to make it harder. So you can see, we'll see if we can do this. So this is the minimum. I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to command highlight the maximum. We're going to go back to insert. We're going to insert or scatter. And this is a scatter. We don't want a line this time, right? And you can see they're correlated. But first we have to figure out what's going on. So if you click, it's actually going to be slightly off. So if we go to select data up here, and you click, you can see it has maximum on the X. I want minimum on the X. So there's a couple ways we could do this. In here, we could change the B's to the D's and reselect them in the select data. So let's see if we do this. I'm going to show you two tricks. So click here, right? And we're going to do this for X's. We're going to select them. And then go back. There's a problem. Uh-oh. What I find actually works better if you delete it and then you select it. Good. And then for the Y values, delete it and then select it. Now it should be okay. And now we know we have minimum on the X, max on the Y. And we see this correlation. But the other way you can select it, if you click on these points, see how it highlights it? You can actually use the hand and you can drag these around. So if you did this, that's the average. So we're going to do minimum, maximum. And so now we know they're set. But now we know this is not a good looking graph. So let's see if we can make this look nicer and add a trend line. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to always add our axis titles. So axis titles, primary horizontal, axis titles, primary vertical, right there. And let's get everything up to bigger font, 18. And the font, the bigger font always looks nicer. You think it's going to be too big, but when you print it or put it in a talk, it actually makes it look nice. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, the graph. Right. The next thing we want to do is we want to have the axes on the ends. If you remember how we did this, if you click on these to format, where is it cross? We don't want to cross at max. We want to cross at a minimum. So I always just put a big minimum value, right? And that should do the trick. I'm going to click on the other one, right? Axis value minus 100, right? So let's see. Good. So that did it, right? And so we have it now. And so now what do we want to do next? Let's get things looking better. You know, I like to make the lines better. So this way we can do a fill, we can do a border, solid line, black. We can get that for each of the axes. I'm just making them black. You know, and we're missing tick marks. Let's get these tick marks added. That's going to be here, over here, tick marks, major, outside, tick marks, major, outside. I'm going to delete these inside. I usually, if I'm going to paste it into other things, I usually like getting rid of the border on the whole thing. I'm going to say border, no line. You won't see it because it's around the edge. It's that border. It makes it nicer for pasting. And usually when you correlate two things that are similar, you want to make it square. So now let's see if we can do it. So we actually want to make these to be the same values. So I'm going to do axes options. I'm going to go from minus 20 to 60 for both of them. I'm going to have it 20 on that. minus 60, minus 20 to 60, make it 20. And you can see this is the maximum is going to be greater than the minimum. You know what, for this one, I actually might like to have the tick marks. So we could do the grid lines. Let's add the grid lines back. Major, horizontal, grid lines, major, vertical. Right, because it might look nice, right? Because we're seeing it. And this way we can actually then make this a little square. Right, it's going to actually look a little nicer. And so let's now get these labeled. So it's going to be minimum. This is going to be the, right, the minimum temperature, right? We want degrees Fahrenheit. So let's go get this degree symbol here. Put it in there. I'm going to grab all this, put into this. Let me call this maximum temperature. Now that's starting to look pretty good. We can give it a title. So we go minimum versus maximum temperature in Minneapolis during February 2025. Right, so then we have a nice title. We have the graph. Let's make this a little bit, keep it square. That looks nicer. Now the last part we want to do is we want to add a trend line. Remember, I like to make these a little bit small. I'm going to make this home. I'm going to change these to 16. Let's make these 16. Then I want to make the plots, the points a little bit bigger. So if you click on it, marker, and you can see, let's go find the marker options. Then you can do size. Okay, built in. Right, you can make it a little bit bigger. If you do that, right, you can actually then also change the color. Maybe give it a subtler color, like a, oh, that's the fill. I'm gonna do no fill. Let's go back to the, we clicked out by accident. Let's click on the marker, fill, right, solid fill instead of automatic, right, and that actually, I like that. That gives it a little bit of a softer hue. So our graph is looking good, minimum versus now we have to add our trend line. Now to add a trend line, you go back, click on your graph, go to chart design, add chart element, trend line, I'm going to do linear. And now to format it, you can click on it because we want to put the, right, we want to format the trend line, right, linear, and we want to add the equation and the r squared to the graph. Right, we can do this, put it someplace for this room. We're going to make that a little bit smaller, maybe a 14 so it's on the graph. And so you can see it. And then we're going to add a border. Let's add some solid fill. Choose we're going to do a slightly different color. You can choose the color you like. And then we'll add a border, solid line, black. So now you have, that's a good looking graph. You have a nice title, the axes can easily see, and you have the equation on the line. Next time we're going to look at the p-value and see if this is significant. So remember to hand this in the one Excel file in a new tab. So you should have 2 tabs by now for your location for your month. Good luck.